Entering a computer lab in the 1970s meant facing an overwhelming wall of buttons and dials. Engineers built these mainframes specifically for other engineers, giving almost no thought to how a person might actually interact with them. Even the first attempts to scale this technology down to a personal level required high-end technical skills. Apple's first product in 1976 shipped as a bare circuit board, leaving the user to source their own power supply and wire up their own keyboard. While Steve Wozniak provided the engineering skill to build that board, his co-founder approached the machine differently. Steve Jobs brought an education rooted in calligraphy and Eastern philosophy. He saw a massive gap between the raw power of the circuit board and the actual human experience of using one. Jobs viewed design as an internal system of subtraction. He replaced the industry's focus on adding features with a personal obsession with simplicity. The multi-trillion-dollar scale of modern Apple is the product of this counterintuitive logic, the ruthless power of saying no. The 1977 Apple II was the first major move toward this consumer-friendly reality. By enclosing the electronics in a clean plastic case with an integrated keyboard, Jobs shifted the computer into a household appliance. This move reflected a core belief that design is defined entirely by how a product works. Jobs pushed for a system that felt as intuitive as a physical tool, rather than a mathematical instrument. In 1984, the Apple Macintosh refined this into a revolutionary desktop metaphor. By introducing a mouse and graphical interface, Apple translated rows of code into icons and folders anyone could understand immediately. The Macintosh proved that design acts as a translation layer, bridging the distance between binary logic and human psychology. By 1997, Apple was a bloated, failing operation, losing money on dozens of overlapping product lines. Jobs began a radical simplification, canceling almost every project to focus on a single 2x2 grid: consumer, professional, desktop, and portable. The 1998 release of the iMac enforced this subtraction in the hardware itself. Jobs made the choice to abandon legacy standards like the floppy disk, forcing the industry toward a simpler, peripheral-free future. Jobs salvaged Apple's future through a process of aggressive amputation, stripping away the unnecessary until absolute clarity remained. This philosophy reached its climax in 2007. At the time, every major smartphone was defined by a cluttered keyboard and a plastic stylus. Jobs used the iPhone launch to explicitly mock the industry's reliance on fixed plastic buttons. He argued that hardware keys were a permanent limitation, preventing the device from adapting to new software. Deleting the physical keyboard turned the device into a blank, infinite software canvas. It was the most extreme application of his minimalist architecture. The iPhone demonstrates that innovation is frequently defined by the friction points a designer chooses to remove. In 2001, Jobs launched the Digital Hub strategy, establishing the Mac as the central command center for every other device. This expanded into a physical ecosystem. Apple designed its own music players, phones, and tablets to link back to that hub, creating a frictionless network. The original iPod was the first major component of this strategy. Its mechanical scroll wheel distilled managing thousands of songs into one intuitive physical gesture. Over time, this seamless integration grew so expansive that it transitioned Apple from a computer manufacturer into a designer of cultural architecture. Apple Park, with its massive closed-loop design, is the physical result of that focus. Ultimately, Jobs proved that in an age of feature creep and complexity, perfection is achieved only when there is nothing left to take away.